Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you could be with us tonight. We've got an interesting show again, and my guests are two women who have children who are what the population might call special needs kids, the new phrase, and I'll have them confirm this, but medically complex. Sounds a little more professional, right? And we're going to talk about what it's been like for them, what it's like for their kids in school, how people react to them, what worries you have, and what joys you celebrate. So, my first guest is Tram, and she's the mother of a little girl, 10-year-old girl named Sadie.
Yes.
And so, tell us just a word or two about Sadie, and then I'll introduce our second guest.
Yeah, so Sadie is 10. She is my only child, and she's just the sweetest little girl. She is growing up. She loves music. She is very medically complex. She is disabled, intellectually and physically disabled, so she is a wheelchair user. And so she has 10 specialists. She has a lot of doctors that she sees, but she is a sweet girl, big smile, makes the whole room smile when she smiles. She loves warm water. Only warm water. Do not give her a cold pool.
Or don't go jump in the ocean
Yeah, she only likes
a lot of warning.
Yeah.
Well, more about her in
Yes.
a minute. And you. My second guest is Jennifer Hanson, and you're the mother of 2 children, but tell us about your younger child.
Yes, I have 2 kids, Makai, who's 18 and in college right now, and then Julian is 15, and Julian is my special little angel boy. He has a rare genetic condition called RoBTB2, and so he presents with seizures. He's developmentally delayed, intellectually delayed, physically has some limitations. I could go on and on. There are many, many, many things he is challenged by, but he's also a very happy person, and he looks at the world as if the glass is half full. He loves humor, he loves music, he loves dancing, he loves moving and engaging with people, and so he's just a joyful spirit.
I've not met Sadie, but
Yeah.
it sounds like they both have a lot of inner glow and happiness, kind of, which might surprise some of the viewers who would think it's more doom and gloom for the children all the time. I'm not sure, but I want to hear about your early reactions, because everyone, I think, worries some during pregnancy. Will my child be normal? And then when it turns out that your child is not normal, it's a big challenge. So how did you, and you're married,
Yes.
correct?
Yep. Yep.
How did you and your partner kind of handle it, and how were you told?
Yep. So the only thing we found out in utero was that Sadie had a heart defect, and that was found through the ultrasound. So we did find out at week 20 of gestation, and that was the only thing we knew, and that did make me nervous. But as the doctors were talking to us, because then the cardiologist came into the picture, saying, here's what she has. So she has a tricuspid atresia. And so the doctors came in and told us, it can present in different ways, but you'll have several surgeries that we can work with, but a lot of people do just perfectly fine with just that heart defect. The one thing that one doctor said to my husband was, she could be on the ski team. She just won't be the number 1 star of the ski team, but she could ski if, that was her only defect. So that was the only thing we knew. And then slowly, after birth, so we were in the NICU with her it was a short time compared to other families. She was there for 18 days. And so they started to do genetic testing and things, but that was still early. So things started to come out slowly. She has a rare abnormal chromosomal anomaly is what they call it, but Many cases aren't known of this one, and the only thing they could find that was in common was the heart defect. So, but slowly we started to have a new diagnosis every 6 months. So she
A new diagnosis.
A new diagnosis.
In addition to the
yeah.
they
So
didn't
after
take
she was
any away.
no,
they
no.
just
So
kept adding.
correct. So she was full term, but every 4 months we got. So after 4 months, she failed her hearing test in the NICU. We went in, and she was diagnosed to be profoundly with severe hearing loss, and so then I started to realize, she doesn't track. So Sadie is considered deafblind. She can hear with some hearing aids, and she clinically doesn't test to be able to see a lot. And so through the years, we found out other things. So she has epilepsy. And so she has a feeding tube. She has a lot of complexities similar to Julian. And I will tell you, it was hard. The first year, I mean, you're leaving, and she got to bypass her first surgery for her heart. But we're leaving with an oximeter, things that are in an ICU. And that, I think, was the hardest where, I think of, you had, your children, and you're probably scared with your first child, right? You're like, oh my gosh. But now we're at a whole different level of complexity where we're like fight or flight, right? Like we're constantly worried. So I will say it was hard, and it is hard. But you learn and you rely on many different people. So thankfully my mother lives with us as well, so she helps. I have family close by that I lean on too. But that's our story. And so my husband was home to help take care. He took FMLA to help take care of Sadie in those first several years because it was tough. So that he did take time off in the beginning to help to be there for us. So it is a hard journey in the beginning to hear those diagnoses, I will say.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's a shock, and then the realities of caregiving, and
Yes.
what a gift, so that you had your mom who
Yes.
was able to actually move in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she lives with us, and so she raised 5 kids. So raising kids to her was no big deal. So she was happy.
It didn't daunt her, but
Yeah.
It's a natural thing.
she might have been like, wow, I thought I was done with this.
Yeah.
But
No.
maybe it could have been too like, this is a real purpose for me at this stage.
Yes.
And
Yes.
did
So
she-
culturally, we do have the the extended family, and
Yes.
so my mother lives with us, and she had moved in after my father passed. So this is what they do in our culture, right? The grandparents are part of the whole family, so they help raise the children. So I am blessed that I have my mother to help.
And I think if you ask probably the majority of young women who would be in a similar situation but without a parent, they might say, oh boy, it'd be nice to have someone here
Yeah.
that I trust,
Yes.
that cares about the child like I do.
Yeah.
It's not a given that you find someone like that.
Yes. Yes.
So there are a lot of pluses.
Yes, I'm very lucky.
But it can be hard too for the couple. Is your husband up for having a mother-in-law living with you?
Oh yeah, he loves it.
Oh, he does? Okay.
Well, Asian culture is also we cook a lot, so he gets all kinds of great home-cooked meals. So he has perks.
Okay, well, that's good news. And tell us more about your life and about Julian with you.
Yes. So Julian was full term. We did not know. We didn't do genetic testing. And so he was born naturally.
You did not know,
We did not know
that there
in
was going to
utero.
be anything
Right.
that was
Yeah.
out of
It was
normal.
A full term
Okay.
birth, no complications, no testing in utero. We knew nothing was wrong. He was born naturally. And about 5 months in.
Do you remember his APGAR? Do you
I think it
remember
was
that
pretty
test?
high. Like, does it go to 10? I think it was like a 9 or something.
10 is
So,
the
I think it was 9.
top, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed a little bit of low muscle tone, and he would laugh sometimes when it wasn't quite appropriate. And I had this tiny little, my radar was on very slightly. And then at 5 months of age, he had his first seizure, and it was an absent seizure. So we did not know what was going on. We thought he was dying, and it was very scary. And we went into the emergency room, and we're in the hospital for the weekend. And we thought, okay, well, maybe he just had a seizure, and 1 in 10 Americans or something have seizures, and this is not, the end of the world. And then 2 weeks later, he had a second one, and it presented like a grand mal. So it was much more what you see in the movies.
Mm.
And then I
Where
felt
the
like
child
I
was
just
thrashing around,
my
kind of.
heart just kind of sank, and I thought there was something wrong here. And then as time progressed, he was not reaching milestones, and it became pretty clear within the first year that we were dealing with something different, and they didn't know what was going on. So it took
But he wasn't in the hospital long at that early
they
time.
sent him home. He was on anti-seizure medication,
Okay.
but he just wasn't, presenting how other kids present and reaching the milestones. And so we knew something was different. And so we went through tons of testing at Mayo Clinic. The National Institute of Health picked him up as a study, Children's Hospital, and it took 7 years until we found the answer. And we went through exome sequencing through St. Paul's Children's Hospital of Minnesota. And that's when they determined he had a genetic mutation. And so a gene mutation, I guess. So that's when we learned, and I was married at the time. And life took a turn, and, he has so many different challenges. And at the time, he had trouble walking, sitting, doing all the things. So we were in intensive therapy at home, and then we went into private therapy at the hospital. So Mackay is 18, so Julian's 15, so they're 3 years apart. And Mackay has kind of taken on, as a single mom, I've been very conscious and mindful around not, practicing parentification with him. And so putting the duty on him to be my co-parent. But what Mackay naturally did was step into that role many times. So we would go out to the car, and he would just, put the stroller in the back and help Julian with the seatbelt. And without being asked, he just kind of like jumped on things. And I think it was partially because he knew I needed help, and partially because he was being helpful. And that's just kind of his character to be. He's a very empathetic person. He's very close to Julian. And I think it's, the challenges have been that he's had to accommodate and make a lot of adjustments in life. But the other side has been that it's kind of been a blessing for him. And he's like, the empathy that he has towards others just is very clear, that he's been so exposed to taking care of somebody and being, loving somebody who has different needs and sees the world differently. And so I think it's enhanced his life, actually, in a really positive way.
That is.
Yeah. And I get feedback from teachers and things, and I think that there's a sense of, gosh, Mackay just really, shines in that way with other people. So,
You're talking about your reactions. How about your larger family? Have they been able to be supportive in a way that really helps, or are there ways that they've made it difficult?
So I think that was the blessing of having my mother live with us, because then she was able to learn how to care for Sadie. I will say my entire family loves Sadie, and they also have pitched in whenever they can. There is a point where doing some of the medical cares gets very difficult or scary, right? I mean, she has a feeding tube, and this tube is just sort of hanging out of her belly, and it is very nerve-wracking. So I will say, my mother-in-law lives out of state. So in the beginning, she was like, oh, I'm going to learn. And so she has done a good job of learning. But as, the child gets older, it's harder to hold them and care for them. So things get difficult by all means. But I will say my family is 100% supportive. They're very active. We live close by. But I think it's also very cultural for us, too, is that really, your family is your village, right? And so that is the blessing that we have, that they are there to help. And so there are things I don't ask them to do because I don't, want to put them in that way. Like my mother draws her boundaries and says, I have a hard time worrying about giving her medications when we would have her help out. And I'm totally fine with that. Thank you for telling me your boundaries. And I think that's one of the helpful pieces if people can tell you their boundaries, if they're able to help or not help.
Right.
And so you learn those things as you work with other people in your lives as well. So I will say that is a blessing that I have for my having a family that's very actively involved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want people doing things they're not comfortable with.
Correct.
For many reasons,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Right. How about your family in terms of,
Yeah, I've had extraordinary support from my parents and Mackay, of course, and friends. I don't have a lot of extended family in the area, so I don't have a lot of cousins or aunts and uncles around. But yeah, no, I've had a ton of support, and I definitely think it takes a village to raise a child. And with our children, it really takes a village.
Yes.
Like it's that much more important. And so having a network for me, a community of girlfriends that have been extremely accommodating and always coming to my house and doing things to make my life a little bit easier. And my parents being very actively involved with Julian and Mackay. So yeah, I mean, things are changing, as my parents get older and Julian gets bigger and he's more difficult to manage when he's having some big behaviors, which he can have. It's not easy. He's getting fast. So it's kind of shifting. But
how about in the school setting? Are both kids in regular full school
Yeah.
settings?
So thankfully, the American Disabilities Act passed in 1990, and that gave our kids the right to be in school, which I can't imagine not having my child in school and getting afforded the ability to learn. And
Was
so
that bill essential to making the change, or had the change occurred before the bill?
No, so in 1990, when the Americans Disability Act came into play, is when we were able to send our kids to the
So
classroom.
they were not
Yeah.
integrated, so to
Correct.
speak.
So Sadie she goes to a regular school, but the school has a developmentally delayed classroom or a special education room. And so she goes to homeroom, and they call it the general education. So she has a homeroom. So she's integrated into as much as she can be integrated in. And then there's certain things like obviously science, if she can learn. So they do still have her in the class, but they pull her out for some other things. Like she gets music therapy is her favorite. That's a way for her to integrate. She loves music, and then they do teaching lessons with it. But we do have different things for them. So like she has physical therapy, she has occupational therapy, she has
During the school day?
yeah, so it may
they
not be
pull her
every
out.
day, but they pull her out, and then they do different exercises with the
Okay.
kids because she's never going to learn math, right? But if they're doing art, she definitely joins them for that. So
Right.
it's a great learning, I think, for the community, because the kids are also learning about Sadie. Like they're very curious. I go in and I talk to them about Sadie, and I explain like some of her diagnoses so that they can understand it. And she has some great friends. They love her, and she loves them. So we do play dates with them that still work. So yeah, we love
that's
we love
good.
having her go to school.
That's good.
Yeah. As they're young, right, children are staring because that's their way of trying to understand, right? Sadie's in a wheelchair. They're like, so they are looking at her. She does have hearing aids, so they're like, looking. And so they're always trying to understand. And I think I'm totally fine because that's our way of trying to teach these kids. And so, what is awesome is the integration allows them to learn for each other because they've learned skills of how to communicate. They learn ASL because Sadie does hand under hand ASL. So the person who is with Sadie is called an intervener. It's someone who is certified to work with deafblind children. So she has someone with her all the time to give her the access because the teachers they won't know how to do ASL or what have you. So the teachers are learning. So I've had teachers tell us, I'm so thankful I've had Sadie in my classroom because it's taught me to be slow. I can speak slower. I enunciate. I'm trying to think of ways to teach her. And so they're learning ASL as well, so American Sign Language. They're learning the signs, and the kids will come home, and I'll hear from the other parents like, oh yeah, we know who Sadie is. We hear about Sadie, and they've learned all these signs. So that's the nice part of having that interaction with our kids, I think.
Right. How about integration for Julian?
yeah, he used to be in a setting 3 school, which provided that, but now he's in a setting 4. So he's not integrated as much. I think it happens a little bit, but it's setting 4 so that there's a little bit more ability for his behaviors to have more staff to control him. So he has to walk through a metal detector and things like that. So it's a little different environment, but it's a wonderful school in North Minneapolis called Hanson Education Center. And he has multiple adults in the classroom with him and about 5 other kids. And it's the
Oh,
DCD.
it's a very small.
Yeah, so it's a DCD program, so the same
Yeah.
for developmentally, cognitively delayed kiddos. But he's learning colors, they're working on matching, they're doing different skill development, self-care, they go outside, they go to the gym. He has contact with other kids, and Julian is nonverbal, so his learning style is a little different than other kids, but he sings a lot. And so kids get to know him in the neurotypical classrooms. And so we will literally be out and about almost every day. Somebody goes, "Hi, Julian." So, because he's
Just out in the
his
general
personality
community?
is so big and he's so happy. Yes, out in the community.
Huh.
Yeah. Even at Children's Hospital last year when Julian had his medical crisis, we were being rolled down for his surgery and somebody was like, "Hi, Julian." I thought even here, like everywhere we
Oh,
go.
that's great.
So, but yeah, it's a great school, and he's learning. His brain is still developing. And
Now,
so
is that a school that is a public school, part of the public school system, correct?
Yes.
So it's not private pay, you're not,
Right. No, public school.
Right.
Right.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, I read that Minnesota is one of 6 states that does take care of our children like they do. And I thought, I had no idea we were in that small of a group when you think of the United
It's a great
States.
state to live in
It is.
for grants and funding. We have a waiver program here, and if you qualify, our kids are taken care of very, very well in Minnesota. So
I'm guessing California would be one of the 6. Do either of you know the other 5?
I do not.
It'd be good to find that out, wouldn't it? I'm curious who kind of is leading the country like we are. Huh? Yeah, that's good to know. What do you think, and it's a big question to throw at you with 3 minutes, but what do you think is needed in our state, in our society, that could be improved upon for your children? It's a big question.
I think in terms of maybe reframing that to what could be improved upon for parents raising kids like Julian and Sadie, for me would be more that I could attach to that, because I think it's very important when you are parenting kids like ours to have a community, to have a support system, and to find your people that get it. And they don't necessarily have to have kids who are disabled, but it does make a difference. And so one thing that Tram and I have done is, with our co-host Haley, is create a podcast called Rarely Familiar. And we felt like during the pandemic, we got even more isolated. I mean, it was kind of like people got to know what it's like to be isolated. That's how our lives are all the time, really, because we just aren't always invited to birthday parties. Our kids are left out of things. They can't go to summer camps. Kids are isolated, therefore we get more isolated. And so we created this podcast as just kind of a way to build community, so that we can have parents tune in and listen to us talk about whatever we're talking about and different topics and having guests and things like that. So I think that, like, reframing that a little bit is where I see that. But
Yeah, that's important. Any comment?
No, I would say for sure. I think in the beginning, you really do need to take time to grieve. But then you also really, once you are ready to go, it's asking your doctors what resources. There's an awesome program called Birth to 3. It's helped me grow. And it's having early intervention, early education teachers come into your home. They were my lifeline, and they gave me, like, I said, if you know any other moms that ever want to meet up, could you share my name with them? And that was how I met Haley, actually. So I would say finding your community, reaching out to any organization. Don't be shy. Just ask for help. You'll meet some of the most amazing people on this journey. And I think that's the one thing that I have want to shout out is all the amazing people I've met to come and help me during this time, because it is a difficult journey, but it can be very joyous because you'll meet some amazing people.
So the appreciation of
Yeah.
not being alone and
Yeah.
having a community, right?
Yeah.
We are going to put a website up for you so you can check out and learn more about Rarely Familiar. And I want to thank you both for coming down, and I wish you had more time. It's gone so fast, but good luck with both
Thank
your
you.
educational ventures with the kids and
Yes, thank
their
you.
good health. And thank you both as wonderful examples of resilience and and good moms.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Of course. Thank you for being with us. I'll be back again next week. Until then, have a good week.